Communication with communicating to yourself. Make sure yourself's right before you get your spirit, soul, and body in check
Hmm.
before you can communicate to or in your day on your daily applications and whatever you have to do in the day. I guess that's one area I've been working on this whole week is to get myself right before we advance into work. Um, that's just one thing I'll be applying this week instead of getting up, not applying anything, and then telling everyone to do it if I'm not doing it myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
A little good progress this week for myself and try getting the team to function as one, not as a dictator, but just out of love, really.
Oh yeah.
And um, and really uh, changing my character, attitude, but everything. I think Dr. Wayne said it the other day. He said, oh, he's talking about discipline. Discipline's another one. When he said, um, without discipline, he said, you don't love yourself.
Yeah.
And that hit me. I'm like, okay. So just this week as well, just seeing people where they're at and just trying to help them get to where they need to get to, but having that same vision, like you've been saying for a while, just go in the same direction. But really, it starts with you. So that's the application part. Just I've been trying to work on this week myself.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's really cool. And the trick is that you can kind of go either way. You can focus so much on yourself, you kind of start navel gazing and start looking for all kind of issues going on with you, or you can look so much towards what's going on around you that you kind of lose focus there too. It's you got to kind of walk the line in the middle,
Yeah,
keep it all in
balance.
balance. So, okay, good stuff. We're pushing late. I've got the recording started. Weekly accountability issue. Beds don't make themselves. And it's real. I was sharing with Nancy about your guys' comments last week, and she really got tickled. It was really fun. But you know, it's because character is the currency of the kingdom. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this is what I heard. I wrote this down. Character allows faith to be faithful. Character allows faith to bring results. Everything works by faith, and it takes character for faith to become action. Because without character, it's just talk or thought. You know, there's no rubber on the road. There, James said, "I'll show you my faith by my works," and that's because character causes me to do what I need to do, not just talk. And that's kind of what I was saying a minute ago. It kind of falls into, is it do as I do or do what I say, not what I do? You know, and character is the one that says you do as I do. And Paul
Yeah.
said, "You watch me and imitate me as I imitate Christ." So, and that takes a lot of character and a lot of boldness to do that. Character creates trust. If we have the character and the foundation and the consistency in our own self, then people begin to trust us, and it's a whole lot easier for people to follow somebody of character than it is to somebody that they can't ever understand or they don't really they can't depend on. So, and character greases the skids kind of for the unity of the spirit and the bond of faith. Character is what kind of allows it all to keep flowing. And so it's and that as you've already guessed, that's what I was just talking about. It's something I started putting in this lesson before Dr. Wayne shared it the other day. So somebody needs to grab onto this, including myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, amen.
Um, so to kind of get things going, a neighbor suggests I put horse manure on my strawberries. I tried it, but I'm going back to heavy cream.
Disgusting.
It's just to kind of loosen folks up a little bit in case you need it. At 8 o'clock, you probably don't need it, but still. But I want to take a little time starting off this week with a little bit of groundwork. And it's groundwork not only for what we're talking about right now, but for this whole program. And essentially, we deal with two different kinds of people. We've got the redeemed folks with the godly hearts that live out their faith and are walking upright lives and God chasers, as one guy put it. And then we still have people who have secular mindsets. They're still working out of their secular mentality. We might say out of the flesh. I'm not sure if that kind of pictures the idea completely. And we use a lot of buzzwords, and kind of sometimes those buzzwords lose their meaning a little bit. But we have those kind of people, and they're not always different people. Sometimes it's the same person who for a while, and sometimes it's me. Sometimes I'm doing the things and living and my heart's where it belongs, and sometimes I'm slipping over into to secular and human and fleshly mentality. And so the deal is that we both have to work with both sides. The godly hearted ones are the ones that live from the inside out, and the hearts of flesh. The Bible says that He will take out our hearts of stone and give us a heart of flesh. And that means a heart that's not fleshly, but one that's human, one that's alive, one that has compassion and life, truth, and God's created plan in it. The secular mind lives from the outside in, and they still have the heart of stone. And again, sometimes we have moments of each. Sometimes we're a little more operating out of our own stone-hearted habits, and sometimes out of our redeemed habits and mindset. So, but the issue is, and sometimes we were doing good and we were really on the right track and we're really pushing forward and doing well, but then we'll have some time, some days, some weeks, and sometimes months and years, and sometimes just a minute here and there, where we kind of slip back and slip into some old habits again. In Romans 7, Paul talks about that, and he said he's kind of torn between his fleshly and his spiritual natures. On the one hand, I want to do one thing, but my flesh does something else, and I wish I could keep doing the right thing all the time, but I do the thing I don't want to do, and I don't want to do the thing I do. And then he says, "Who can please get me out of this body of flesh that keeps pulling me in two different directions at once?"
Mm.
But so if Paul's got that challenge, then I think that it's okay to confess that we do too. I do anyway. I'm sure you guys don't, but nevertheless, I'm just kind of talking here, just to kind of help you understand the people that you're not, right? So if we only work with people assuming that they're walking from the inside out, that they're walking in the Spirit, what's going to happen? We're going to miss the folks that are kind of not quite there right now.
Yeah.
And if we flip to the other side and start focusing on the people who are not there right now, who are still kind of in the middle of something, or are still working to get some stuff out, or even younger Christians who are not, who are still maturing, it's still a sort of a childhood stage in their spiritual walk. If we start living with focusing on that and dealing with them from that side, then what happens? Well, we've kind of missed the people we've missed the other half. And so, in ministry, we're working both kinds, and we're constantly always going to be working with people who are one side or the other. Most of the people we work with will be somewhere in the middle. It won't be completely one way, completely the other way, but they're going to be somewhere in the middle. And so we need to really be able to connect and understand both sides. We've all got plenty of history on both sides, and so we can kind of see that. And it's kind of funny. Dr. Wayne pulled out a phrase the other day, and I told Nancy, I said, "This is funny. I have not heard that phrase in years." One that my mom used to say all the time, talk about being so heavenly minded, we're no earthly good.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so we don't need to be there. but we don't need to be so earthly minded. We're no kingdom good either. But we still have a keen understanding, a keen history on from one side to the other. So we need to understand both sides so we can be effective leaders, managers, communicators, team leaders, evangelists, ministers, whatever we're doing, and be a good example. Along the way, we constantly, though, we don't need to spend our whole effort and labor focused on the middle ground. Okay. Because if we're leading, we're taking people somewhere. Okay. So we need to constantly be drawing people upward and forward, which means that those people who are a little in one place, we need to be drawing them forward. We need to be building them. For people who are in another place, we need to be drawing them forward as well. And so both sides and everybody in between, we are dealing with everybody all at the same time. And not connecting with them doesn't mean we leave them there. We put themselves at the same place. Okay, we don't necessarily lower ourselves. If we're talking especially to a group that is less mature, really in a kind of a tough spot, we don't abandon this, our connection with the Spirit to step down to their level, because that's not going to do them any good either. So but we need to be sure we're taking people somewhere, but we need to be able to connect with the whole scope of the people that we're working with. And again, I've noticed how Dr. Wayne does that. And he is really good at it. And yeah, well, I'll leave that one there. We're talking about decision making now. Decision is one area where we have to deal with everything. Decision making is what we deal with both sides in everything the organization does. No matter what we're doing, we're always making decisions. Okay. But here's what, and this is about what I heard Rob saying a minute ago, is you need to be the one who listens to the still small voice and follow it. Okay. Because you're in a position who's has some influence. You may not be the top leader, you may not be the focal person, but you're still in a position where you still need to be, each one of us, listening to that still small voice and following that. Okay. If we're doing that, others who are also listening to that, hearing that still small voice and following it, they'll come alongside and we'll walk together. Okay. For those who are listening to the other voices, we need to understand where they are and be able to speak life and truth to them. Okay. There will also be other voices. We got to kind of pick it apart, make sure we're listening to the right voices. Okay. And stay tuned to the right one. Now, one thing is really kind of cool for me, is a lot of times that still small voice speaks. We're in the middle of doing things. There are times that we're just sitting down having some fellowship, and the Holy Spirit will drop something into our spirit and stuff. Sometimes we wake in the middle of the night and our spirits are doing something, and we wake up in the morning and say, "What was that?" I know it was really cool, but I can't remember what it was. But there are times when we do that, but a lot of times it's when we're in the middle of doing things that the voice is that Holy Spirit is popping things in our minds. Nancy and I were out sharing with people at the mall the other day, and one precious young couple, three little kids and so on, and they were just really eager. You looked at them and think, yeah, these guys are heathen to the hilt, and they're not all interested. We just started talking to them, and boy, their eyes brightened up. Said, yeah, tell us more. And so we led them in a prayer and stuff. And I asked him another question. And I asked the guy a question, and I couldn't hear what he said. She said he's had an accident. He's lost his voice, and just popped in just real quick. Let me pray for you. And I just didn't even have time to stop and think about it and weigh it out. Just let me pray for you. And so I prayed for him, and that the Lord would that he'd find healing and get his voice restored. So, but that's a lot of times we find that that happens when we're in the middle of doing things. So you don't need to necessarily sit around and wait for it. Before you do anything, you just need to stay tuned in. Okay. Y'all still with me?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we're talking about decision making. You are today the decisions you made yesterday, and you will be tomorrow the decision you made today. I heard that once. You guys ever heard that one before?
Yeah,
Yep.
that's it. I'm going.
Once a month, maybe? Yeah. But our decisions determine who we are and who we will be. Okay,
Yes.
they grow out of who who we are. They grow out of where we've been, but they also lay out the path before us ahead as well. So, and there really are fewer things in our lives that are really more important than our decisions, the decisions we make. Sometimes there aren't very many things that are less important than decisions we make. Sometimes we're making decisions that just don't really matter at all. But abiding in the Spirit helps us to understand and make the most of the whole thing. But it's really one of the most critical parts of our daily lives. So, but I want to start off with some foundational things for decision making. What we started off with the kinds of people we're working with, that's the foundation for everything that I'm doing. The whole course from front to back is kind of built on that thing, because there's a lot of sometimes I'm talking, I think I really sound like a secular teacher, but I think, well, and that's okay for two reasons. One is because there's information. I was taking a class. I'll have the first time I went to college when I was still a teenager, or just about 20. I was sitting in the class and I had another Christian in the class with me. We were talking about it and stuff. There's some really good stuff in here, but the guy's interpretations are nuts. And the data that he was referring to and the information that he had was actually very good, but his interpretations and applications were crazy. We actually went up and talked to the teacher about it one day and said, "Yeah, the guy's nuts." And she laughed and said, "Well, it's kind of obvious who stayed home and raised the kids and who went to the office and wrote the book. Why are we using a book for a guy that doesn't know what he's talking about?" But what I learned was there's a lot of things that we can pick up from the secular world, not their interpretations of things, but what they actually see and observe. It's okay. It's okay to pay attention to those kinds of things. So, and to learn. But that's the foundation for everything I'm doing is taking all the information that we can, some that will kind of connect from a classroom secular mentality, some that connects with a spiritual mentality, because we're walking in the middle of it all. We're putting the whole package together to make it as useful as it can be. But anyway, but some of the foundational decision rules, as far as decision making itself, these are two must-have decision rules. Every decision we make, no matter how important or unimportant it might be, they really need to have these two rules in place. One is, in every situation, choose to do the most loving thing. And that's something Bob Mumford said in his book, The Agape Road, and in a video program he did. And when he said that, it really kind of shook my world. In every situation, choose to do the most loving thing. There's some other points he made, but that was really sort of the focal point of the whole thing. And that needs to be the foundation of all of our decisions, is choose to do the most loving thing. Another one is let everything you do be redemptive, which is something Charles Simpson said many years ago. Let everything you do have a redemptive tone to it. Okay. I was actually facing a decision, an issue this morning. I was praying about it, and it just struck me. Quit trying to think about it from my own human mindset, and start thinking, how can I be redemptive? First off, how can I release the problem to the Lord? Let him step up and do his job, because there are things about it I can't deal with, that I don't really have the ability to solve. But let him do his job, and then my job is to be a light, to be redemptive in the whole thing. And so these are basically decision switches, okay? They're either on or off. And if they're off, it's going to be the wrong decision. May sound right, may be justifiable. I've done that plenty of times where I've made decisions that I could justify and rationalize and everything else and blew up in my face. It's just the wrong decision, period. If they're not, if those switches, either one or both of them are off, it's wrong. You need to be able to say yes to both of them before you move any farther. You can use them for boundaries, as you're moving forward, and through the processes of making decisions and walking through the process sometimes of making a decision or making a decision and carrying it out. They can kind of be boundaries. If you start finding yourself slipping off the road a little bit, say, wow, we need to get back into doing the most loving thing and being redemptive about it. And I'm not going to try to say what it means to do the most loving thing or be redemptive, because it's going to be different. Sometimes doing the most loving things means just total greasy grace. Just spread grace all over the thing and just let grace have the day. There are times that it means you can kind of be totally cold truthful, because truth is really the truth can set people free. And there's always going to be a balance between the truth and the grace. Interesting kind of things. You could write a book on those, because they're really, in one way, they're opposites. Grace tends to try to hide truth and try to overcome or work around truth, and truth cuts through grace. And so to be able to do both of them as Jesus does is one of the miracles of the Father. So there are times it can be either one more grace oriented, sometimes more truth oriented. However, and so we need to be able to answer those questions. Yes, it is the most loving thing, and yes, it is redemptive. Okay, so those are the starting points. Then everything else kind of builds on top of that. A couple other things to keep in the back of your mind: don't let the urgent get in the way of important. It's really easy to start putting out fires, then all of a sudden everything else collapses. Have ever been there? You get distracted with all the little issues here, all the little ants crawling on your toes, and all of this little thing, and this phone call, and somebody said, "What about this?" and "What about that?" and so you get distracted with all the little things, and all of a sudden you're losing track of the big picture, or the little decisions that start taking over, and you kind of lose track of why are we doing this in the first place. It's one thing I found out in doing academic work in the university and doing research and things for that was there were whole streams of research that people did that when you start peeling, and they were really getting nuanced and detailed about it. Leadership's one. So detailed with it and stuff like that, they lost track of the big picture. What is the end game here? What is this whole thing all about? Dr. Wayne talks about when he uses the example of getting an argument in Bible school over, what kind of sandals Moses wore or something like that. I don't remember what. But we kind of get focused on the little tiny details. We've got to keep the big picture in mind. If we ever let that slip off the table, then there's no point in doing anything. We won't achieve those objectives if we don't keep those in front of us. So there may be emergencies, but don't start running around like a chicken with your head cut off, trying to put out all the fires and take care of all the problems. Sometimes you just got to let them take care of themselves, because you can't do it all. A lot of times you got to delegate. There's a lot of ways you can deal with that, but just make sure that you're not falling in the trap. One of Satan's most useful tricks that we talk about less than any other one is just distraction. If he can get us distracted and off track, we'll miss our goals. We'll miss our objectives. Yeah, sometimes you just say, no, I'm not going to worry about that stuff. I gotta do what needs to be done here. Sometimes it's better to make the second one. Even if you're on the right track, you get run over, you just sit there. You need to be on the right track, but you need to be moving too.
Yeah.
That's it.
Sometimes it's better to make a second-rate decision or not a really good decision. Sometimes it's even better to make a bad decision than no decision. Have you ever been part of a project or of a group or of a team that's doing something, but didn't really know what to do? How do we do this? What's the plan? Where do we go from here? What's the next step? And everything kind of ground to a halt and everybody just kind of stopped. And they may say, okay, let's take a break. Let's go sit down for a while. But anyway, the whole thing stops. But then you finally get some direction. And how long does it take to get the whole thing moving again?
Yeah.
Everybody kind of shuts down. All the connections, the fellowship, and the relationships, and the communication, the mindset, it all shuts down. And to try to get all that stuff back on track again, sometimes is a lot of work. So there are times it's better to keep things moving, even if it's in a bad direction. You can change direction. If the ship's going the wrong way, you can turn it.
Yeah.
But if it's just sitting floating, it takes a lot to get that thing moving. Okay. Now I'm not saying go around making those bad decisions. Say Dwight said it's okay to do that. No, I'm not saying that. But just watch it. Just there's something to keep in mind. Okay. I could open a whole can of worms with that one, couldn't I? Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's a bad decision. I'm just going to do it and move on because at least we're moving, right? Maybe not. And one more foundation piece. There's nothing so useless as doing efficiently. That's which should not be done at all. Okay. The most important, once you kind of get wrapped up in making a decision about something, the most important thing, no matter what the decision is, the most important thing is to make sure you're solving the right problem. Okay. Make sure, because it's really easy to see something and look at something. We need to do this about that because of whatever, without realizing that that's not really the problem we need to solve. Okay. Now, an easy example is when we're dealing with somebody who's acting out. And the natural thing is to try to step in and correct the behavior when they're acting out. And sometimes we need to do that. But is that really the problem? The problem is a lot of times going to be some pain, some hurt, some wound, some fear, so some other kinds of demonic force or something that's working them over on the inside and manifesting. Now we can solve their behaviors all day long, but we're not going to solve the problem. Okay.
Yeah.
There was a tire strike by rubber workers working and making tires some years ago, and they went through over and over again. And it was a Japanese-owned company, and the strikers were in the United States. And I was kind of watching that thing as the progress went along, and they never could make any progress. And because what they were doing was the Japanese had one mindset about how labor relations, how the relation between the workers and the managers, how they structure it. The Americans had a totally different picture of it. The whole system in the United States was different from the system in Japan. And so the Japanese were arguing from the Japanese mindset. The Americans were arguing from an American mindset, and they never could get it together. And they wrestled with that for 3 or 4 years. And I just kept thinking, if you guys would address the problem that you're talking 2 different languages, solving 2 different problems, you might be able to come together. And it took another couple of years to do that. It was several years that and the strike went on and on. Identify the right problem first. Okay. That's history is full of people who solved the wrong problems and ended up with a huge mess. Okay. So decision making starts with character. And when I heard Dr. Wayne talk about character a while ago, a few days ago, that yeah, spot on. I'm really glad he kind of legitimized what I'm saying here. But things like our integrity, consistency in what we do, godliness, faithfulness, walking in the Spirit, righteousness, and all those kinds of things. That's where our decision making starts. Okay, we've got to build on that foundation. Character means you can stick to those two rules from Mumford and Simpson. Okay, it means you can keep your priorities in order. It means you can avoid getting distracted by putting out the wrong kinds of fires, dealing with personal issues when you should be dealing with institutional issues or vision issues or something like that. It means you can avoid ethical conflicts. And trust me, people in the ministry, and I'm sure you've seen your share of it too. People in the ministry deal with ethical conflicts just as much, if not more, than people in the secular world. It's crazy to think that we would be in a better place, but it's actually one of those sneaky little devices the adversary will use. I knew a pastor who had a member of the congregation who was a single mother and really having a hard time. She was about to lose her house. And so he stepped in and bought her house and rented it back to her. Do you see a problem with that?
Rescue.
You've taken a pastoral, shepherding, caring relationship and turned it into a financial relationship.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you're in a position of power, and pastors have a position of power, have a position of authority, and you're using that to sort of influence other people's decisions. And now he said, yeah, it's a good thing. It'll help her. But what happened was he was thinking it would help him because he would be able to make some money on the deal. And it blew up. He had to actually kick her out of the house. And they had a really good relationship until it turned into a financial relationship. And then it went sour. I've also heard of pastors who had friends in the car business and would actually refer people in their church to the car dealer. You need a car, go see so-and-so. Now, what would so-and-so do? What would the car dealer do? He'd pay a little referral fee back to the pastor. Okay. I've seen it happen. And so all of a sudden the pastor's not doing the best thing for the people in the church. He's doing something that he thinks is good for the people in the church because they need cars. But at the end of the day, they may not be getting the car they want to get in the car that pays him a little bit of side money. Okay. It's a character thing, but it's easy to get blindsided. That's my point. It's easy to get blindsided with character issues. Okay.
Yeah.
We just got to be really, really careful that we keep totally clean. Character means you submit your decisions to the spiritual leadership. Just like Dr. Wayne talks about submitting his decisions to some people that he fellowships with. And he's got to get on some of his decisions and choice. He's got to get agreement. Make sure he's sometimes it's just a timing issue, whatever the case may be. But character means you feel comfortable and free to do that. It doesn't mean you're turning your ministry over to somebody else. It means that you've got people who are interested in care for you, and you're willing to listen. Okay. Character means you can buck up and stand up against your own personal fears and insecurities, which may be the hardest thing for us to do. It means that when you've got some challenges or some issues that, as Dr. Wayne says, you pick up yourself by the scruff of the neck and say, we're going forward today. We're moving on. And those are character things and that's where decision starts, because we've got to have in place first those kind of foundations that we're going to do those things that Bob Mumford, Charles Simpson said. Those are in place. That we're going to follow through. We're going to stay between the lines. We're going to maintain our integrity. We're not going to quit in the middle. I've known other pastors who'd make a new decision every month. Say, well, that didn't work. Let's try something different. No, you can't. You've got to carry it through. Okay. So you start with the character in making those any kind of decisions. Then after that, okay, what is our purpose and what is our vision? We'll talk more about purpose and visions when we start talking about some big picture strategy kinds of things. But what is that light ahead that everybody's moving towards? Okay. What is that compelling vision that we painted that we want to draw people to? So that helps you to not get distracted with the little things. That helps you to make the main thing the main thing. Then add the context. Okay. What's our purpose? What's our vision? What's the context? As you guys are traveling around doing ministries in different places, the context is different. And so the decisions you make will be different based upon different contexts, different kind of people that you're working with, different kind of people that you're working for, I mean, that you're actually serving, different kind of relationships you have with different people in different places. You may be able to have some resources for land, for supplies, for whatever kind of things. The weather, you're going to account for the weather, for the mosquitoes, all kinds of things like that that you need to pay attention to. And then the problem. Okay, then you start adding the problem and identifying the right problem. Taking some time to understand exactly what the problem is. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Okay. So those are the basics, the foundation of decision making. One potato, two potato, three potato, four. Is that one you guys use? Don't know that one.
Yeah.
Okay, that's from a nursery rhyme.
That's it.
It's a way they used to teach children how to count. One potato, two potato, three potato, four, five potatoes, six potatoes, seven potato more, I think. Anyway. But there's four things I want to throw out here. There's four different hooks that kind of pull us different directions in when we're making decisions. Okay, the four different things: risk. The risk is the chance that we might lose something. Okay, it may blow up in our face. It may not work. We may give up something we can't get back. We may make a mistake. And if we make a mistake, what's the problem there? And so some people are don't like taking a risk, and some people they're fine with it. Most of us don't really like risk because it's a little frightening. Okay. Another one is uncertainty. We don't ever have all the information that we want. It's always better to have, we always wish we knew more than we know. We always wish we could learn and understand more than we actually can. Conflict is the third one. The third potato. Conflict, people and objectives, things pulling us in different directions. Okay, some people want to do it one way, some people want to do it another way, some people think that this is a better idea, some people think that's a better idea. For whatever reason, and sometimes in our own heads, we get pulled in different directions. And we need to try to sort all that out too. And the fourth potato is decisions. There's not always a clear-cut process or step-by-step way to put the whole package together to make the decision. So we'd like to try to find ways to help us structure it and organize the process. Sometimes we can't do that. More often than not, we just don't have the ability. We can't kind of organize everything as well as we'd like to. There's too many people and too many things involved and too much stuff going on to be able to sit back and walk away and put pen and paper to it and things like that. So, but I want to walk through those for a few minutes. And actually, well, let's get started for just a couple of minutes, okay? We've got about 5 minutes left. So better safe than sorry. Which is not always the case, but making decisions is risky. It's risky. When you make the decision to marry somebody, it can be risky. There's going to be some challenges no matter what, and we don't always know what those challenges are going to be. We just say make a decision to join up with one group or take one job versus another. When we buy this car versus that car. When we have, go out to this place to get a bite to eat or some other place and find out the place we went, the cook was off that day and it was nasty stuff and made us sick. There's always some kind of risk involved. But people who don't take risks, you generally make about 2 big mistakes a year. People who do take risks generally make about 2 big mistakes a year. And this guy's really a sharp guy. He knows what he's talking about, Peter Drucker. But it's always there. Sometimes it's a matter of faith. Sometimes it's a matter of tuning in to that still small voice. But still, we try to avoid risk. And there's really no real way to get around it. Stepping out in faith, taking a step in faith or doing something because we believe it's the right thing to do, because the Lord has led us into doing something. We still kind of do our best to encourage ourselves and lift ourselves up that it's the right choice and the right thing to do. But still, there's that nagging voice sometimes that keeps harping in the back of our heads. Whatever is not of faith is sin, but we need to make decisions from a position of faith. But there's not always that voice telling us exactly which direction to go, whether to take the right turn or the left turn. Sometimes we got to walk through the process. So we'll shut it down at that, but I want to get to see if you guys have any comments or suggestions or thoughts or ideas or responses or anything striking you today.
I think sometimes, like the phrase that was coming to my mind was one like you can easily get stuck in the paralysis of analysis.
Yeah.
I like that, like in terms of it's better to be going somewhere rather than totally paralyzed because you're so scared of making the wrong decision that you end up making no decision or a delayed decision, which sort of
Or you keep making the decision over and over again.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's really good. Thank you. That's a great point.
I like that even if you're on the right track, you'll still get run over if you just sit there.
Yeah, I really like that.
It was funny.
It was because some people they'll say, "Oh, I'm on the right track." I'm like, "Yeah, but are you moving?" It's actually it's good because sometimes people like when you're talking about decisions with people, it's like, "But I'm on the right track." But and that's usually the conversation stopper. Whereas now it's like, "Oh yeah, but are you moving? Or are you sitting there?"
Or on your right track going the wrong direction,
Oh, well, that's true.
The light at the end of the tunnel is a train, right? Yeah, that's good stuff. Now,
I think when it comes to decision, I always remember like when I was in my job and we'd have to try and help people make decisions about life and sometimes like habits that weren't or being on the wrong track. And they always said that if you get to what actually was their core motivation, you could affect their decision making ability, because like we used to do this like decisional balance tool where you would look at the pros and cons of continuing their life the way they are and the pros and cons of changing, and then look to see which was weighted heavier in their mind when they actually saw it on paper, and then start moving in that direction. And usually when they saw it on paper, they usually had something in their life they wanted to live for, be alive for, or to change for. And once you got to that, you could basically get them moving in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great analysis tool. It's a great way to kind of lay it out in front of our eyeballs and stuff.
Yeah, that's it.
And
Oh,
Now we talked some about how women and men think and differently from one another, right?
yeah,
And so a lot of times women use a little different mental process to in the decision making for what men do. And which is why that paralysis of analysis can really kind of creep. Men tend to go A, B, C, D, let's go.
Yeah.
They'll still kind of get wrapped up into things like that, whereas women tend to be much more integrative. And yeah, but they'll be like A, but then like D kind of fits in it too. We got to consider that, but don't forget C and then and B and then but yeah, we can't forget A either. And but they tend to it's actually what neural net computers do. AI computing and stuff like that is trying to pull a lot of information together and analyze it simultaneously, which sometimes makes it a different process to get to that final let's go this way.
yeah.
And so but it really can kind of push into some of those kinds of issues. I'm running over time. I know you guys got other things to do this morning. So Father, thank you for this time together. Be with them throughout the day. Lead and guide, protect, and preserve and keep for your name's sake and for glory and be glorified in all that we do. In Jesus' name, thank you.
Amen.
You guys have a great day.
We will.
Thank you.
You too. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Bless you.
Bless you guys too.
God
I'm
bless
trying to
you.
figure out how to stop recording.